The first thing I noticed was the silence. No TV, no music, no clinking of dishes or running water. Just this heavy, unnatural stillness that wrapped around the house like a weighted blanket. My name is Alex. I'm 37. I live in Oceanside, California, and that night I came home from another 12-hour shift at the firm. Shoulders aching and brain fried, just wanting a beer and maybe half an hour of mindless TV before passing out. Instead, I walked into a house that didn't feel like mine. The air was still. No hum of the dishwasher, no whir from Kate's white noise machine in the home office. Even the fridge seemed quieter than usual, like it was holding its breath with me. "Kate," I called out, setting my keys on the table. No answer. I wasn't immediately alarmed. She could have gone out for a walk or to grab takeout. But something was off. The living room looked mostly untouched except for her laptop, which sat open on the coffee table, screen glowing softly in the dim light. That wasn't like her. Kate was meticulous about closing it when she stepped away, always locking the screen with that little snap of finality. It was one of her quirks. Her digital space was private, sacred even. I stood there, staring at it, feeling this weird knot form in my chest. I didn't move at first, just stared. Then I stepped closer. The screen was still active. A folder sat open in the middle, labeled clearly, "Not for Alex." That stopped me cold. I froze, hand hovering above the trackpad. It was the name that did it, not private or work or some random string of characters. It was personal, it was directed, and it was the kind of label that made you feel like you'd already done something wrong just by seeing it. I hesitated, then I clicked it. Inside were a few PDFs, some screenshots, and one long message thread. My eyes landed on the contact name, M. I opened the thread. The first message was short, flirty, casual, then they got longer, more intimate, talking about places they wanted to go, jokes I didn't understand, complaints about how things are at home, and then the one that hit me hardest. "I wish I could just fall asleep next to you every night instead." I stared at the screen, my heartbeat thudding in my ears. There was a timestamp, just 3 days ago. I sat down slowly, trying to breathe. I kept scrolling even though I didn't want to, even though every message made my stomach turn. There were selfies, jokes, one voice memo, her laugh, the one I used to think was just for me. I closed the laptop gently, not out of care, out of shock. The silence was deafening now. There was no more pretending I'd imagined it. Something had shifted, something had ended, and I wasn't even sure when. I sat on the couch in the dark, the screen's afterglow still flickering behind my eyes, and waited for Kate to come home. I was still on the couch when I heard the door unlock, keys jangling, paper bags rustling, normal sounds on any other night. But tonight, they made my skin crawl. Kate stepped inside, wearing her usual post-work outfit, leggings, sweatshirt, hair pulled into a low bun. She looked the same as always, calm, effortless, like someone who hadn't just had her world cracked open. "Hey," she said casually, kicking off her shoes. I picked up Ty. I didn't move, just watched her from across the room, hands clasped tight in my lap. She set the bags down on the kitchen counter and started unpacking them like everything was fine. "Kate," I said quietly. She glanced up. "Yeah?" "I saw what was on your laptop." There was a pause, brief but heavy. Her face didn't change much, just a blink, maybe a quick breath. But I caught it. That micro moment when she knew the game was up. "Oh," she said, voice even. "Okay." That was it. Okay. Not "what do you mean?" or "why were you on my laptop?" No panic, no denial. I stood up. "You left it open. I didn't go looking for anything. It was just there." She nodded. "I figured you might see it eventually. You labeled the folder not for Alex, Kate." My voice cracked just slightly. "What the hell did you expect me to do?" "I wasn't trying to hurt you," she said, her tone maddeningly level. "It's just complicated." "No," I said, stepping closer. "It's actually not. There's someone named M sending you heart emojis and talking about falling asleep next to you. That's not complicated. That's betrayal." Kate looked down, wiping her hands with a napkin she didn't need. "It's not what you think." "Really?" I laughed, bitter. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what I think." She looked up then, calm, cold even. "We've been drifting for a long time, Alex. You work all the time. We barely talk. I don't even remember the last time we did something, just the two of us, that wasn't grocery shopping. I stared at her. So, this is my fault? I didn't say that, she replied smoothly. But maybe if you'd been more present, I wouldn't have needed someone else to talk to. I took a step back like she'd hit me. Wow. I'm just being honest, she said, like that made it better. It's not like I slept with him. Yet, I snapped. She didn't answer. We stood there in silence, the cartons of food sitting between us like a bad joke. I looked at her, really looked, and realized she wasn't shaken. She wasn't scared of losing me. She was prepared for this. That's what gutted me the most. You don't even seem sorry, I said. She looked me in the eye. I'm not sure I am. The next morning, the house was still quiet. Not the eerie kind from the night before, but something colder, heavier, the kind of silence that follows a slammed door, the kind that hangs around even when no one's yelling. Kate was already in the kitchen, sipping her coffee like it was any other day. She didn't look up when I walked in, just stared at her phone, scrolling, completely unbothered. Morning, she said flatly. I didn't answer. I grabbed a mug from the cabinet, filled it with whatever was left in the pot, and leaned against the counter. We stood there, feet apart but miles away. For a moment, all I could hear was the soft clink of her spoon tapping the inside of her mug. Did you sleep? She asked, finally glancing up. I shrugged. Barely. She nodded like that was expected. I've got a video call at 9, so if you need anything from the office, grab it now. And that was it. No apology, no explanation. Just scheduling. I walked upstairs and stood in the doorway of our bedroom. No, her bedroom now, I guess. Our bed was neatly made, pillows fluffed, as if the person sleeping next to her wasn't collapsing from the inside out. Her side table still had the same framed photo of us from that trip to Seattle, the one where I proposed. It looked like a museum piece now, a relic from a version of us that no longer existed. I sat on the edge of the bed and let myself fall into the silence. When had this all started slipping away? Was it 2 months ago, when she started working late every night? Or maybe back in March, when she canceled our weekend plans 3 weeks in a row, claiming she was just exhausted? I remember asking her if everything was okay and getting a clipped, "I'm just tired, Alex. You always think something's wrong." Maybe it was even further back. Maybe I just hadn't been paying attention. I walked to the closet and pulled open her side. It used to be cluttered, scarves draped over hangers, shoes piled on the floor. But now, clean, organized, like she had already started detaching, removing the chaos of herself from my space, from our space. It hit me then. Not like a punch, but more like a slow leak. Kate hadn't just pulled away physically. She'd been emotionally gone for months. I just didn't want to see it. The kisses that turned into forehead pecks. The late-night conversations that faded into silence. The way she'd nod at stories instead of laughing at them. Little things. Hundreds of little things. And I let them all go. Because I trusted her. Because I thought love was enough. I walked downstairs and saw her sitting at her desk, typing. Like nothing had changed. But everything had. 2 nights later, she told me she was going out for drinks with a friend from work. It was around 6:30. She stood by the door with her coat on, perfume already in the air. She didn't ask if I wanted to come, didn't tell me which friend. Just smiled, casual as ever, and said, "Don't wait up." I nodded. She was already halfway out the door when I said, "Who are you meeting?" She paused, just for a second. "Just Taylor from design. I told you about her." She hadn't. I watched her leave, then stood at the window and waited until her taillights disappeared. Then I pulled out my phone and opened the tracking app. Kate didn't know I still had her location synced with mine. It was something we set up a couple years ago after she locked her keys in the car at a rest stop in Big Sur. She never bothered to disable it, probably forgot it existed. I sat down on the couch and watched the little blue dot on the screen start moving, past the usual downtown bars, past her office, past anywhere that made sense for a casual Thursday drink with a friend. She kept driving, out of town. About 30 minutes later, she stopped moving. The dot settled near the coast, right at the edge of one of those beach communities filled with expensive houses and private driveways. I grabbed my keys and the small drone I kept in the hall closet, the one I used to mess around with on weekends. I hadn't touched it in months, but tonight I had a reason. By the time I got there, it was already dark. I parked down the street, far enough away to stay unseen, and launched the drone quietly from a nearby pull-off. The house was modern, walls of glass, low lights glowing from inside. I brought the drone close to the second floor, hovering just outside the edge of a window, and there she was, Kate, laughing. Wine glass in hand, her feet tucked under her on a cream-colored couch. Across from her was a man, late 30s, clean-cut, wearing a dark gray sweater and jeans. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I didn't need to. He leaned in. She touched his hand. They looked comfortable, like this was normal, like this had been going on for a while. At one point, he got up and disappeared into another room. She stared after him with this little smile on her face, like she was waiting for someone she actually loved to come back. I hovered the drone back and took a few stills. Not to confront her. Not yet. I just needed the truth to be solid, to be something I couldn't explain away later, because I'd been doing that for weeks now, making excuses, giving her the benefit of the doubt. But seeing her there, so easy, so relaxed in someone else's life, it finally made everything clear. Kate had already moved on. She just hadn't bothered to tell me. And now I knew for sure. The next morning, I got up before Kate. She was still asleep, curled up on her side like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't spent the night sipping wine with another man, laughing in some beach house while I sat in a parked car 30 feet away, staring through a drone lens at a life I wasn't part of. I didn't say anything. I didn't ask where she went or what time she got home. There was no point. Instead, I made coffee like I always did, same mug, same cream-to-coffee ratio, and started separating our lives. That day, I transferred half of our joint savings into a private account under my name. It was legal, clean. The account had been set up in both names, and I had every right to move the funds. It felt surgical, almost cold. But that's what I needed right then. Cold. Next came the passwords. I changed mine to everything. Email, bank, cloud backups, even the garage door code. Then I called my lawyer. We'd worked together years ago when I bought the house. I told him I needed to discuss options, and he didn't ask questions. We set a meeting for the following Monday. By the afternoon, I had already pulled copies of our mortgage, our insurance documents, and every shared utility bill. I opened a new P.O. box and rerouted all my important mail. I even filed a change of address request, listing my office as my temporary residence. All of it quiet, methodical, detached. Kate barely noticed. She spent the day in the bedroom on her laptop, pacing through conference calls, laughing every so often, like she wasn't dismantling our marriage brick by brick. That night, she made pasta and poured me a glass of wine like she used to. I didn't touch either. She asked if something was wrong. I shook my head. "You've been quiet," she said, swirling her glass. "Everything okay at work?" I met her eyes. "Everything's fine." She stared at me for a long second, then nodded. "Good." I waited until she went to bed before changing the locks. Deadbolt, smart lock, garage code, everything. I stood in the hallway when it was done, looking around at the house, our house, and felt like a stranger. This wasn't my home anymore. It hadn't been for a while. The next few days were more of the same. She sent a few texts while I was at work, memes, jokes, little check-ins, like we were still in the same world. I answered with short replies. One-word responses, nothing more. Then the tone changed. Her messages started shifting. "Hey, can we talk? I miss how things used to be. Maybe we should take a weekend just for us?" I didn't reply, not because I was trying to hurt her, but because I had finally stopped lying to myself. This wasn't a rough patch. This wasn't miscommunication. This was over. She just didn't know it yet. It was a Thursday evening when she found out. I had just gotten home from work, dropped my keys on the counter, and opened a beer. The house was quiet, peaceful. For once, it felt like mine again. Then I heard the handle rattle. She tried the front door once, then again, then harder. A few seconds passed before the knock came, firm, rushed. "Alex?" Her voice wasn't angry yet, just confused. I stayed in the kitchen, out of sight. She knocked again. "Alex, my key's not working." Another pause. Then came the text. "Kate, did you change the locks?" I stared at my phone without answering. Outside, I heard her try the garage keypad. She stood there a long time before knocking again, louder this time. "Alex, come on. What is this?" I walked over to the window by the stairs and pulled the curtain just enough to see her. She was standing on the porch, shoulders tense. shifting her weight from one foot to the other. Her face was flushed, not from anger yet, but something close to it, like she was realizing slowly that the ground under her feet wasn't stable anymore. She pulled out her phone again. "Kate, I don't understand what you're doing. Kate, you're being cruel. Just talk to me. Kate, please." I put my phone face down on the counter. She knocked once more, softer this time. I heard her sigh, then the creak of the porch step as she turned away. A minute later, I saw her car pull out of the driveway. Just like that, gone. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel much of anything, honestly. Just tired. Watching her out there, rattling the doorknob, leaving a trail of texts. There was something surreal about it. Like I was watching a stranger try to get into a house she didn't recognize anymore. And maybe that's exactly what was happening. She wasn't locked out of the house. She was locked out of the life she'd already walked away from. And now she was starting to realize it. She came back the next evening. I heard her car before I saw her, engine slowing as it pulled into the driveway. No knocking this time, no phone calls, just footsteps up the porch, deliberate and slow. From the window, I watched her set something down on the doormat. Then she stepped back, standing there like she was waiting for something. But I didn't move, I just watched. It was a small white box. On top of it, her wedding ring. She stood there for a minute, arms crossed, then glanced up toward the window, maybe wondering if I was watching, maybe hoping I wasn't. Then she turned and walked back to her car. No message, no speech, just that. I waited until she was gone before I opened the door. The box was plain. Inside was a short note, folded neatly. "I don't know what to say anymore. I just wanted to leave this." That was it. No apology, no explanation. Just one last symbolic gesture, like it might patch over months of dishonesty. Like dropping a ring on the porch was supposed to mean something deeper than the choices that led us here. I set the note aside and held the ring in my palm. It felt heavier than I remembered. This wasn't a peace offering. It was a concession, not to me, but to the situation. A final attempt to show she was capable of feeling something, even if she couldn't say it out loud. Even if she didn't really regret what she'd done, only that it didn't end on her terms. I put the ring back in the box, closed it, and left it on the hall table by the front door. I didn't hear from her the next day, or the day after that. Her texts slowed, a couple half-hearted check-ins. "Hope you're doing okay. If you want to talk, I'm here." Then nothing. She didn't ask to come back. She didn't fight. Whatever part of her had been holding on had finally let go. And honestly, I felt lighter. There was no dramatic ending, no final screaming match, just silence. And in that silence, the last thread between us quietly snapped. She left her ring on the porch, and I never put it back on her finger. The divorce went through faster than I expected. Kate didn't contest anything. No fights over the house. No drawn-out debates about who got what. I think she just wanted it done, the same way someone might close a window during a storm. Not because they regret opening it, but because they're tired of the rain. My lawyer handled most of it. I showed up for one in-person meeting, signed a stack of papers, and walked out feeling nothing. No relief, no sadness, just the quiet sense that a chapter had been sealed, shut behind me. The day it was finalized, I packed a few boxes, put the house up for sale, and booked a short-term rental in Ashland, Oregon, a town I'd only passed through once, years ago, but something about its slow pace and pine-lined roads felt right. I didn't tell many people. A few close friends, my boss, my lawyer. That was it. I drove out of Oceanside before sunrise on a Saturday. No one saw me leave. No one needed to. The house sold 3 weeks later. Kate didn't message. I wasn't surprised. Ashland was quiet. Mornings were filled with the sound of birds and the rustle of trees outside my window. I started walking trails behind my cabin in the early hours, a thermos of coffee in one hand, hands in my pockets, breathing air that didn't smell like car exhaust and office stress. I started sleeping better. I deleted the photos, all of them, from my phone, my computer, the cloud backups. Not out of bitterness, but because I didn't need reminders of a version of me that was always giving, always guessing, always wondering if I was enough. The version of me who kept believing things would get better if I just tried harder. He was gone. Now there were new habits, quiet mornings, grocery lists with only one name on them, books I actually finished, music that didn't make me think of her, I'd sit by the lake sometimes, just me, a folding chair, and the sound of water gently tapping the shore, and realize I hadn't checked my phone in hours. No notifications, no passive-aggressive texts, no waiting for answers that were never going to come. I was still learning how to be alone, still learning how to take up space without guilt, but I was getting there. One morning, I took a canoe out onto Emigrant Lake. The water was still, the kind of smooth that makes you whisper without meaning to. I drifted out to the center and just let the boat sit there, rocking gently. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was running from anything. I wasn't trying to fix something. I wasn't trying to win someone back. I was just there. And for once, that was enough. About a month after the move, the calls started again. But not from Kate. Her mother was first. A voicemail I didn't return. Then a few old friends of ours, ones who used to invite us to wine nights and game nights, now suddenly trying to check in. The messages all had the same undertone, concern mixed with persuasion. Like maybe I'd wake up one morning and regret everything, decide to patch things up, crawl back into the familiar mess. I didn't reply to any of them. Then one night, my phone buzzed while I was cooking. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, as usual. It was Kate's dad. "Alex, I know things didn't end well, and I'm not trying to get in the middle of it," he said, voice scratchy, like he hadn't rehearsed this at all. "But she's not doing great, says she wants to talk. Just thought you should know." I stood there for a while, the knife still in my hand, the stove hissing behind me. I didn't call him back. Later that week, I got one final message from Kate herself. No apologies, no ownership. Just a strange blend of self-pity and convenience. I think about us a lot. I miss what we had. It's hard going from a life where someone always had your back to this. I guess I just didn't realize how good I had it. That part stung, not because I wanted her to regret things, but because even her regret was about comfort, not love. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of life where things were easy, where I caught her lies with silence instead of locked doors. I didn't respond. Some people don't change. Some people don't even try. And when they finally reach for you again, it's not out of growth, it's out of loneliness. By then, I was past it. I had built something new, not dramatic, not flashy, just real, solid, mine. Some nights I'd sit on the porch as the sun went down behind the hills, and I'd think about the version of me that used to beg for scraps of attention, that used to hold on to what was left, just because letting go felt like failure. He's gone now. And Kate? She's a story I no longer need to finish. Whatever we had ended long before, the locks changed. I just finally had the strength to admit it.